Hi everyone, welcome back to Max Electronics. My name is Max and today we will be looking at this LED light. This is a usually type of video that Big Clive would do, but I thought I'd make one of them, so stay tuned. So here is an LED light that's been installed in my mum's laundry for quite a while now, probably around 4 or 5 years. And the LEDs, this is a cheap Chinese version, so it comes usually with a little driver. LEDs are taking about probably around 10 volts, 12 volts. And why I like those down lights is that you can actually simply disassemble and replace LEDs. With those GU10s or MR11s, you have to replace a whole bulb, and it seems a waste. This one, in our case, there's a one LED that is faulty and two are really dull. So they're not dull, but I'll plug the power supply in at 11 volts at the moment, and you will see what happens. So, as you can see, this one is flickering and is dragging the others down. So this one seems to be steady. This one is, I think they're in pairs. So it's yeah. We'll have a look. I don't remember exactly, but we'll replace all the LEDs. 5 years out of this light is really good. So we're going to match LEDs first because they're all running. I'm pretty sure in parallel. I think maybe 2 in series and 2 in parallel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take LED beads, I'm going to send the voltage supply to a low voltage. We're going to get a couple of LEDs out and we're going to connect the power to them on the very low settings, so just until it lights up. So at the moment I've got 1.8 volts, 1.9, 2, 2.1, 2.2, 3, 4, 5. So 2.5 volts, and we can see it's dimly lit. So now I'm going to go with the rest of the LEDs and see that they will light up dimly as well, just like the first one. Probably match them in the process. See, this one is a bit brighter than this one, so I'm not going to use that one. This one's a bit duller, so I'm running out of LEDs. Yeah, those too much, and we just need to find one more. So here are the 4 LEDs that match with power. That's how I usually test it. Now, if they don't match, the chances are, if they say in series, one LED will draw more power than the other, and it'll burn out faster. So when you're matching them, of course it's not precision matching, but it's close enough, because as you saw with this ones, one would be really bright, one is really dull, the other one's flickering, which is the faulty one. So we want them equally lit. So to disassemble this sort of a device, it's very simple. We can unscrew the side bolts, screws that are holding the middle part in place. So that comes out like that, and then that simply unscrews. And now we have access to our LEDs. I'll probably clean it up, there's a few bugs in the lens. And let's have a look. They are all in series. So as you can see, positive coming here and going through this one, then this one, this one, this one. I thought they were parallel for some reason. But yeah, so we're going to, that's another reason why you do want to match it, because as you saw, we're connecting the voltage 10.9 volts or 11 volts, and they should be lit equally. If they're not equal, then you need to replace them. And most of the times I'll get the LEDs from China and I'll match them, or like LED bulbs. There is an LED bulb that is on my porch that I've used. It's similar. It's 4 LEDs. It's just a GU10, I think it is. Oh, it's actually E27 that screws in. It's got its own driver inside, and it has worked since I bought it, which was years ago. It has not blown yet, because first thing I did when it arrived, I've tested it, it worked, and I had to look that if the LEDs were matching. and they weren't, so I've removed them all and I've replaced them LEDs with the cheap Chinese ones. They're not genuine, LEDs. They are cheap Chinese LEDs. You just got to match them, and the light is bright and worked perfectly, since all I have to do sometimes once a year, I'd have to pull it apart because it's got a grill like that, and I'd have to clean all the bugs out because it's outside, but the lights had never failed. So I'm going to remove all those LEDs and then we'll test them individually. Here's a quick tip on how to just solder those LEDs. They actually on aluminium substrate, so as you can see with lots of heat sinking compound. So the way to remove them is there's a few ways that people say just remove the whole board and you put it on a hot plate until it gets warm enough, and then you use soldering iron. So what I do is you you add a fresh solder, for example, to positive. My soldering iron is set at 360 degrees Celsius. So we add a little bit of fresh solder, and we'll hold it there for a sec, and then you twist it to the side until it's off the pad. That wasn't a good, there we go. And now that it's off the pad, because it's easily bendable there, you can take the second one and it just comes off easily. Once the LEDs are removed, I usually take a little bit of fresh solder and add it to contacts. Hold it there for a sec until you see this nice shiny blob. And after that, I'm going to clean this all up using you can use a desoldering gun if you want. I'm just going to use this desoldering wick and just suck all the solder to make sure the pads are nice and flat. Now that all of the solder has been removed, I'm going to use my favorite trusty lacquer thinner and clean off all this flux that factory has left behind, and clean off all the old heatsink compound. I'll just get rid of flux first and apply some fresh stuff. Now that the board is fully cleaned up and ready for new LEDs, let's have a look at the old ones. Now I can't see where the positive or negative is, but we'll power up the power supply and we'll have a look at the differences. So here are the LEDs, and still at 2.5 volts. Let's try it out. This one is barely lit. This one is one side, I think, lit, so it looks like I may have one chip dead. I think they're 3-watt LEDs. This one is lit alright. This one is really dull. So let's up it to, let's say, 2.8 volts. I think that's the, oh no. So as you can see, they're all different. They even have a different color temperature, so they will go to the bin. And let's now get some fresh heatsink compound and add the new LEDs onto there. So I'll do the same method as I do usually with everything when I do by hand, resoldering the SMD components. You simply grab a solder and you tag just one side, just a little bit, and we'll do it with all 4 LEDs. So I usually tag the positive and I'll leave the negative. So let's add a little bit of heatsink compound. Just a dot in the center. Once you press the LED, it'll spread it evenly. And let's solder the first LEDs. Now, those LEDs that I have, they're already marked with a positive and negative. I don't know if you can see, this side it actually says positive, like plus, right on the contact here, and this one says negative on the contact. So that should be easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that over the top in the center and line it up. Once it's lined up, I'm going to heat up this side until it's flat. It is hard to do on camera, so let me just, it's a bit off shot, it's a bit sideways, but let me just align them so I can look above them and solder them on, and then I'll come back. So now that I've done the rest of the LEDs, this one, like I said, I've tagged it. So we tack the positive. The negative is still, hang on, which one? This one. The negative is still not soldered. So what we do, we add some fresh solder onto it. And then we press on the LED with a finger firmly, not too hard. You don't want to, squash it and break it. So we'll add some solder and just press it so the solder paste gets in. Just a bit of flux. And then once that sets, you go back to the positive side. And then you do the same thing. You just tack it again and press it firmly so it solders well. After it sets, just use our cleaner and clean up all the flux. So the LEDs are now done. Let me just center that. Now let's plug it in and test them again. Let's see how well are they going to work with, with matching. So I've got 3.2 volts, which is not going to light them up. I'm quite sure of it. And I will turn the lights off just so you can see. If they're going to match. So we've got 3 volts, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we'll go down. So that's 9.9, 9.8, 7, 6, 5. I don't know if you can see, but they are pretty matched. So at 9.5 volts, 4 LEDs are lit equally. So if we take it to the full power of 12 volts, they are lit perfectly, even and same color. So now I'm just going to quickly clean the lens and reassemble the light. The lens is clean now. I usually like to put it on LEDs first, then attach the ring that's supposed to lock it carefully, and just screw it in until it locks in place. So if the lens is not loose, you know it's locked in place. Attach this back into the light. Light is now reassembled. Let's power it on again. And it works just fine. It is bright, even, no more flickering, just perfect. So here it is. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Max Electronics. I will see you next time. My name is Max. Bye.